Hello, welcome back to the Black Friday review series. Today we are going to take a look at something I have been putting off for a little bit now because, quite frankly, there was a lot of conflicting information about this. I'm still not exactly sure what's going on, but I'll try to explain it as best I can in the review. This is something a lot of you have probably been waiting for a while now. It is my review of the Tiny Arcade Ninja Turtles machine. Yes, they did it. They put the Ninja Turtles arcade game on a little 4-inch machine. Sort of. Yeah, I definitely have to point this out. There's people wondering what kind of game this is because it's not going to be the original game. Some people were even speculating that it's the NES ROM. No, it is not the NES ROM. No, it is not the original arcade ROM. To be honest, you gotta keep in mind, this is a little tiny 4-inch machine. There's no way they're going to be able to fit the original arcade machine on this thing. You also may notice it's a little different than the previous Tiny Arcade series. As you can see, here it is next to Galaga. You can see the console is actually lower to the ground. And, of course, the screen is much bigger. That's because of what they had to do with the display for this kind of arcade machine. And of course, here it is next to the other Ninja Turtles offering that Super Impulse did, the pinball machine. So let's get the size comparisons out of the way first, and we're going to take, of course, my bootleg Aqua Neroid. And the lower console actually fits in scale a lot better with Neroids, I have to say. Okay, get back here, you useless deity. Now, let's get another comparison. Let's get my Bumblebee here, and yeah, the lower console actually does work for Bumblebee a little bit. But there is another scale we can consider. Let's take of course, my Mum-Ra, the Ever Living, that I've used in a lot of reviews so far of these mini arcade machines. And if I bring this up to table height, this could actually pass for a 1/12 scale bar top machine. Not entirely, but the lower console actually makes that work. So let's actually take a look at the details. As you can see, we have a coin slot, a single coin slot, not a dual coin slot, which of course makes me think bar top machine with the Ninja Turtles on this kick plate. Yeah, now I know what this is called. This is called a kick plate. We have the Ninja Turtles artwork from the arcade machine. I don't even need to bring up the original arcade machine artwork for this because if you've seen the arcade 1-ups at your local Walmart, you will recognize this right away. This is so iconic, it is almost impossible not to recognize this as the original arcade cabinet art. Except for one thing. There is no Namco logo. No Konami logo right there. So, sorry, Namco, Konami, Capcom, all those arcade. But yeah, there's supposed to be a Konami logo right here, and it does seem that this is one of the changes between the different versions of this, because some will have the Konami logo, some will not. Mine does not. Of course, the same artwork on the same side. And then, of course, we have the marquee, which I remember this marquee so much as a kid. I have seen this arcade machine so many times. This is so familiar to me, and you may notice it doesn't look as crisp as the Galaga. There's a reason for that, and we'll get into that when we turn it on. As I already pointed out, the screen is much larger than the previous Tiny Arcades, and you will also notice the console is different. Of course, this doesn't have the console sticker as usual, but still has the 4-way button control. The 4-way joystick, but it has 4 buttons. I am going to need to explain something here. Again, this is not the original arcade version. This is not the NES version. This is its own original rendition, a port of the arcade game that they made for this machine. And they had to change the controls, how they function, because you can't make quick, precise movements on a joystick. Because, as you know, if a foot soldier captures you, you have to wiggle the joystick like mad, or you have to switch directions fast in order to attack someone from behind you. You can't do this on this little joystick here without possibly damaging it or breaking it. So what they did was make it with Double Dragon 2 controls. If you do not know what Double Dragon 2 controls are, one button attacks to the left, one button attacks to the right. So you attack to the left, you attack to the right. And the two top buttons are your jump. So you jump left, jump right. So that way you don't have to change the joystick in order to get the proper jump or attack. And you can just leave the joystick alone if you just want to attack one side. You don't have to hold the joystick and then keep tapping the attack button. You can also see it's kind of hard to actually press the button and hold the joystick at the same time, depending on which way you're going. So it is a nice little workaround with the limited hardware they're doing. But I will have to address the hardware and the software, because there are two versions of the firmware on these things. From what I've seen, I have the first version, which is the first one I've seen reviews of, which is basically goes to a options menu right away and you don't select your turtle. It always defaults to Donatello no matter what, because quite frankly, even the other firmware will default to Donatello. And the other firmware doesn't have the options menu, but it has a faux turtle select. And I think that just changes the color of the turtle, but it's still Donatello no matter what. I like Donatello, but people are not happy that you can only pick one turtle. And there's no multiplayer on this. But then again, we expect these are little tiny machines. But keep in mind, this is a tiny little unit. There's no way they can fit the whole arcade game in this thing. So there are sacrifices that need to be made, and Donatello has the longest weapon, so it does make sense that he's going to be the one that's going to be playable, because quite frankly, it will just make the game a little easier. Because Raphael would just be too short range to attack foot soldiers. So would Michelangelo. Leonardo may have the range, but Donatello has the longest range, so they had to go with Donatello. So we're going to turn this on. And look at that. It's a nice simulated intro. And it looks almost exactly like the arcade. Not perfectly like the arcade, but pretty darn close to it. It's kind of hard to see on the camera. Yeah, and there's the options menu. You can see, you can turn the background music on or off. You can turn the sound effects on or off. And we can even adjust the volume, which is pretty nice. So we're going to start. It's always going to be Donatello, so there's no way to change your turtle, but again, it's always going to be Donatello no matter what. I also should point out, the marquee lights up. This is the first tiny arcade machine that actually has a light up marquee, so that's really nice. Also, listen to that. That's not the original arcade music. It's kind of a faux version. It's only like 4 seconds cover of it, but it's not the original music. But then again, this didn't have the original music either. So let's actually start. Okay. Yeah. While they couldn't get the original music, they do have all of the voice clips from the original arcade machine, and that is really nice they were able to include that. They even have the original intro, but that's the only cutscene they actually have in the game, is the original intro. Yeah, it even has what sounds like the original sound effects too. See, you just... You can mash the left and right buttons to attack in front and behind you. As you can see, all the foot soldiers are armed with pole arms, so they are going to have a lot of range, and they're going to hit you before any other turtle hits them, so... Oh yeah, by the way, those are instant death. It's really hard to avoid. There's also one other thing that you might not have noticed, but I haven't lost much health yet. But you can actually regain health a little bit by every enemy you kill. So it does tone down the difficulty a bit, but not by much. As you'll see when I get to stage 2. Yeah, the hit animation is kind of spastic, and I can hit almost all the enemies on that side of the screen. Yeah, I'm just blowing through these enemies, and there's Rocksteady already. You do fight Bebop eventually, but... Yeah, you see they cut the cutscene out. Yeah, you see right there, all those foot soldiers just killed me instantly without any warning. That's kind of the problem, is that the game's so easy that it has very cheap deaths every so often. Like, there's one stage I was in. Yeah, I might get to it, but when you get to the highway stage, because there is the highway stage in here, those foot soldiers with the bombs are almost impossible to hit before they throw their bombs, and the bombs are instant kill. I do have to admit, for the small sprite size and the small screen, they are well animated, except for that hit animation, because you can see it has a really nice walk cycle to him. And I'm taking into consideration the limits of the hardware here, because the fact they're even able to get this as playable as it is, and even with all the original sound effects, although they weren't able to get the original music, the original sound effects in it are pretty nice. You also may notice we are in the sewers. We skipped the entire street stage with the Bebop fight. Yeah, I remember that voice clip. Yeah, it has all the original sound effects, as I said before. You can't hit the traffic cones into the foot soldiers, but you can smack those exploding barrels, but they don't really do much. They're just there for show. Yeah, there are some unfair difficulty spikes near the end. Yeah, there's also a trap here. Yeah, that, as you can see, that was an instant kill right there. And of course, this barrel, you can't really hit it. I don't know why. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep this at an angle where you can see it properly. Yeah, I'm hitting both attacks at the same time. And I'm just decimating them. Yeah. Now this is where it gets really hard, because there's those foot soldiers with the bombs, they're the ones in the Cadillacs, there's the ones on the motorcycle, and they're very hard to kill. You can already see, every time I kill a foot soldier, I get some health back. Let's kill him. Let's kill him. Yeah, I got him before he threw the bomb. It's also worth mentioning I have yet to beat this. Who knows? Maybe I'll beat it this time. Yeah. Got blown up. And I'm dead. Yeah, it has the game over. Yeah, so that's it. It's pretty darn hard. Stages were cut or merged together in order to compensate for the space limitations. I'm gonna be frank. If you're going into this expecting it to be like the original arcade game, you are going to be sorely disappointed. If you go into this knowing that this thing's going to be limited, it's not going to be the original arcade game. It's going to be a facsimile of it. It's not terrible. It's something you can play for a few minutes, like on break or something. It's not a substitute, but it's at least something that's going to be reminiscent of it. But there's also the fact that there's the two firmwares. There's the one with the faux turtle select. I believe that also had a auto-scrolling, which some people found annoying. Whereas this version right here has the options menu, which I do like that there's a volume control. But it does take away the turtle select. Regardless, this is going to be something that you're going to be very decisive about. Because, quite frankly, some people might enjoy having this on hand just to have a little fun thing to play on break. Some people may get it for the display. Whereas people may not like it because it's not the original arcade game. It doesn't play like the original arcade game. It's not like the original arcade game. But it doesn't have to be. Because there is limitations. You can't get the original arcade game into one of these machines. And what they were able to do at least is pretty impressive. But it does feel like the technology quite isn't there yet. Maybe in like a few years they might be able to get, at least at a retail perspective here. Because remember, this is a retail product. This isn't going to be like one of those indie homebrew ones that have like all the arcades on games on it. From a retail perspective, what they were able to accomplish was pretty impressive. It's not perfect, but it's at least passable. And if that's good enough for you, then this is going to be worth it. But some people may not want this, especially if they get one of the ones with the other firmware on it that has the faux turtle select and the auto scrolling. So it's one of those things where it's hard to review this because, again, people are going to be very decisive about what they're looking for this. And also the fact that there's that two different firmware thing. And I'm not even sure if the other firmware is even the retail version because from what I've seen, that other firmware was on review copies because anyone who had that firmware got the device directly from Super Impulse as a review, whereas people who got the firmware I have purchased it like I did. And another thing is that these things are going to be pretty hard to find too. I mean, it took a while for me to even find one, and I had to go to Amazon to find it. So that is my review of the Ninja Turtles Tiny Arcade unit. It's kind of hard to recommend because, again, it all depends on what you want from this thing. So, anyway, that is my review, and now we go to the next one for our Black Friday series. See you next time.